yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is David Filar, and you're watching the prelude to the first episode of An Untold Narrative. Now, An Untold Narrative is an idea I've had for about, let's call it 6 months. It's been a little bit, and I've been sitting on it, and I've been trying to figure out how do I want to approach it. And at the end of the day, I think it's the best thing that we can do is just put our ideas out there into the world. So regardless of if this works or not, I'm still going to try. It's that simple. The goal of the project is to showcase, highlight, and converse with creatives from different industries who don't have a following, who aren't famous, who've really never been given a shot. I want to highlight those people. I've been fortunate in my career where I've been able to interact with a lot of really incredible people. And through their stories, I've realized that, they work just as hard as anybody else, and nobody's been able to give them a hand and to help them and project them into the future. So that's my goal. With that being said, I want to accomplish the same conversation about myself. I want to give people context as to why I'm doing this. So I first decided that I need to learn the YouTube platform, a little bit ago, because it's one of those platforms that's been around for a very, very long time. And for some reason, I've never gravitated towards it. And I've seen people been able to tell incredible stories and educate people and show instruction videos and DIY this, and you can learn this tool through watching somebody explain it to you. And it's a really incredible platform that I've never dove deep into. And so I started creating YouTube videos about 19, 20 days ago now. I'm just showing people my sneakers on a day-to-day basis. And so it provided me the context of being able to upload videos, been able to edit them real quick. And that's kind of even to broaden that, I don't want to create super edited videos. I want them to be natural conversations. I've invested in a Zoom platform, and it's going to be virtual. We live in a crazy time right now with coronavirus, and they're going to be conversations just like this. That's all I want. And so they're going to be authentic, and they're going to be real, and they're going to, talk about some really uncomfortable things, hopefully, because I think that's where people can provide the most value. So the ultimate goal, above all else, is just to hopefully inspire somebody. I've realized that after almost 6 years in the professional world, that is my number one goal in anything that I want to do in my life, is just to try to inspire somebody. And so now with this prelude, see, it's unfiltered. With this prelude, I want to be able to provide a little bit of context about myself and where my life has been and how I got here, right? So first and foremost, I would love, if you're watching this, to click some of the links below. They're going to feature my Instagram, they're going to feature my Twitter, they're going to feature whoever in the future that is part of the conversation, their channel as well. And hopefully you can reach out to them or myself if you see any value in this. I'd greatly appreciate any feedback that you can give me. So I'm pausing before I go into this rant, that I'd appreciate you guys reaching out and letting me know your comments below, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm going to try to even learn how to incorporate pop-ups on YouTube. I don't know how to do any of that right now. I just, no idea. So please, please, please take a look at all the context below and let me know what your thoughts are. And so now we're going to take a quick break, and we're back 2 seconds later. So as I said, my name is David Filar. I am currently 28 years old, right? This isn't a biography. This isn't a memoir. This is simply just a quick up to speed, or get everybody up to speed in terms of where I am in my life. I was born in Poland. My family, my parents immigrated to America when I was really young. My father and my uncle came over first, back in the late '80s, and then my mom and my sister and I and my aunt and my cousins came over when in the early '90s. Since immigrating to America, my parents have struggled a lot, and they've had to work really shit jobs, and they've had to work multiple jobs at the same time. They've had to do everything, uh, do everything, and not even speak the language, which still blows my brain out today. Can you imagine? It's like today, every country, it doesn't matter where you travel, everyone speaks fucking English. And so we have it so easy today. Back then, it was a lot harder. And so they immigrated to America. They brought us along, right? And so I grew up in this foreign household where we didn't really have much. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we didn't have much. You try moving to a foreign country without speaking the language or job, and you figure it out and let me know how it works out for you. So my dad was a firefighter back in Poland. He came to America and he had to work untraditional jobs, being a pizza delivery driver, working odds and ends and things like that. Today he's a super successful tool and die maker. Back in the day, there was a Connecticut funded state program where you could go to school for free. So that's what he did. He took that opportunity and educated himself, and that is what he does today. Now, my mom, on the other hand, worked a lot of really shitty jobs, like cleaning people's houses and cleaning funeral homes and all this stuff. And it's not to bash anything, right? It's a really tremendous job, and the people that do that work really, really hard for a dollar. She went to college for, I don't know, some like 10 odd years or something like that, part time, and now she's works in a hospital as a radiologist technician or something like that. So I provide this background to just give you a little bit of understanding, because it's easy to just look through the screen and see this middle-aged guy who might have it all. And I do, and I totally do. I have pretty much anything anybody could ever ask for in life. And that's why I want to give back. And so, but it wasn't always that way. It was a lot of hard work. From my parents' perspective, I owe them everything. The main thing that they've taught me is to work extremely hard. If you want anything in life, you have to work really, really hard for it. And so when we were growing up, I remember kind of a turning point. I remember sketching a lot of houses. I remember this vivid memory of mine in my brain, of me sketching my neighbor's house across the street. And I remember this family walking their dog, and they came up behind me, and I remember they looked at my sketchbook, and they were like, "Oh wow, that's a really good drawing." I don't know why I remember that. And then since that day, it was really like, I want to become an architect for the rest of my life. Now, that did not happen. I'm not an architect today. Maybe one day, you never know. But as I got older and I was started like looking at colleges and stuff, I'm like applying to architecture programs. I applied to a handful of colleges in Philly and Hartford, Connecticut, and my sister at the time was a year older than I, and she went to college in Boston, and I went to visit, and I fell in love with that city. And so I knew I wanted to go to Boston. And so I applied to my alma mater, Wentworth Institute of Technology, to become an architect. And they have one of the best architecture programs in the country, in my opinion, and also industrial design. But they rejected me, believe it or not. Wentworth, if you ever listen to this, I want you to contextualize this and understand that you didn't allow me to do something, and I figured out a way to actually become even better because you told me no. And so they rejected me from the architecture program, but they sent me this backhanded compliment of like, if you pick a different major, we'll accept you, but you have no portfolio to support architecture. And you can see that side of the business. I get it, right? And so at the time, I was scrambling, searching through their website. I'm like, what else can I do? I have no idea. And so I stumbled on civil engineering, and that's what I took my first semester, and my first semester only. I couldn't do it. I had a full class on just bricks. You can imagine it was boring as shit. Couldn't do it. My freshman year of college, I was in a suite of 13 dudes. 13. You can imagine there was a lot of testosterone and a lot of just video games and kind of beer and things like that. And at the time, I had a roommate, Lorenzo. Shout out to Lorenzo, honestly. Yeah, I don't even know if he does design work anymore. And I remember him being in the common area, and he was just drawing with markers. And I go up to him and I'm like, Lorenzo, what are you doing, man? Like, you're just coloring shit. And he's like, oh, this is my homework. I'm like, that's your homework? You're playing with markers? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what major are you? And he's like, oh, I'm in industrial design. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And I'm switching majors soon. And so I look it up and I find out about industrial design. Now, many people who get into industrial design have no idea what industrial design is before they actually take that major. And so halfway through my freshman year, I switched over to industrial design. It wasn't as competitive as architecture, and I figured it was something that I can learn how to do. Now, Wentworth's really unique because there's no gen eds, there's no like, BS classes. It's like you're going right into this major once you commit. And so that actually set me back a half a year. So I actually went to college for 5 years, and I have 4.5 years into industrial design versus the traditional 4. And so that's how I got into the major. About, halfway junior year, I remember going to this event, and I don't know if I believe in everything happens for a reason or luck or timing and things like that. But I remember going to this event at Fry, which is Fry Boots. They have a store on Newberry Street. And I remember meeting Michael Petrie. Michael, at the time, was the creative director of Fry Boots for design. And I believe he's at Toomey these days. Michael, if you ever hear this, thank you for getting me into footwear. I honestly owe it to you. And so we had a conversation. I remember on one of the first iPhones, I'm like flipping through some of the original renderings of shoes. Maybe I'll put it up there. I should pop it up. That'd be hilarious. One of the first original shoe renderings that I did, and he like looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, keep working on it." And it was like, that is awful. But no, we had a good conversation, and he's like, if you really want to do this, just keep practicing, keep trying, and things will work out. And so it wasn't really like one of those super inspirational conversations, but it's one of those moments in time that I really held on to, because I was like, who is this guy, this creative director, to talk to some kid, right? And I don't know, we spent 15, 20 minutes chatting, honestly. I think his phone number is still in my phone book. And so, thank you for that. And so even things like that, I try to give back to the youth these days and have conversations. And that's really why I want to do this whole platform of An Untold Narrative, because there's so many people out there who need to share their story. And so I transitioned into senior year, and I'm working on my senior thesis, which revolved around like a Google Glass type thing and some footwear integration. You can look it up on my Behance. It's still up there. It was an 8-month-long project. I actually never made my portfolio, to be honest, because I'll fast forward a little bit. And April, May, we graduated in August of 2014. April, May, I was like, I need to get a job before I graduate. I was so determined to make sure that I had a job before I graduated. I don't know what it was. It was probably, the way my parents instilled the work ethic in me and things like that. But I was so driven to get a job before any classmate of mine. I was like, I'm not taking time off. I'm not waiting. I'm going all in. And so I remember I was spending more time on my portfolio than my senior thesis at one point. I was like, I need this dialed and I need a job. And, I worked tremendously hard on it. I emailed everybody. And I'm going to pause right here. If you're still watching this video, I want to be very, very clear. You're going to get 1,000 no's. You will receive more no's than yeses. If you receive more yeses than no's, you are not doing and you're not pushing yourself hard enough in life to achieve anything. I just don't believe that. You need to get rejected. You need to be said no to. You need to be told you're not good enough. That's how you find yourselves in the right positions in life. And so I remember very vividly, I'd go to the traditional website. I'd go to and I knew that I was doing footwear. So I remember emailing all the and I don't want to shout out any brands who didn't support me back then, because I was just a normal kid with design work, right? And so, the New Balance apprenticeships, the Puma apprenticeships, the Timberlands of the world, all these people in New England, nobody got back to me. Nobody. Zero. So I was like, there's got to be more than these major brands. There has to be. And so I was looking up scholarships. I was looking up other classes. Shout out to 210 Foundation, because I applied for this Ars Tutoria class, which is this it originated in Italy, but they do a master class full week in the fall season in Massachusetts, where they teach you anything from, footwear production to pattern making to lasts, things like that. And I remember I found this scholarship, and I applied for it, and I got accepted, right? And then I started tinkering around on the 210 website, and I remember I found their sponsorship page, or all the footwear brands who are invested or partake in 210 activities. And it was a list of 100 brands. Must have been over 100 brands. I remember the list was massive, and it was way bigger than the list of footwear companies I knew about. I mean, the smallest brands. And what did I do? I took every single one of those brands and I Googled it. I found a website. I went to the website. I found an HR email, and I fucking emailed every single person's HR. Straight up. This is the truth. Only 2 brands got back to me. Number 1 is Vibram. And almost 6 years later, I'm still there. And the second one I won't name, because it was a woman's fashion brand. And I'm so thankful that I didn't end up going that route, because I probably would have been super unhappy. So I'll leave that unnamed. But I remember emailing HR@vibram.com. And at the time, I didn't even find a job posting. I didn't know they were hiring. I just blindly emailed them in May of 2014. And so they got back to me. I went on 5 interviews. I think it was 5, 2 phone interviews, and then 2 in person, and then 1 Skype with Italy, the headquarters, with the CEO at the time, which was kind of incredible, right? And so they weren't looking for 2 designers. They were looking for 1 designer. And, I'm very fortunate and very happy to be sitting in front of you today, still as an employee of that brand, because they took a shot on a kid. That's all I was back then. I think I was still 21 or 22 years old. I mean, I was so young, and they took a shot on me. And so thank you, Vibram. This isn't sponsored by my employer or anything like that. It's just, seriously, I look back on my career, and they didn't have to hire 2 people. They could have hired 1. And so I was actually hired the same time as somebody else. I was hired a full month before I graduated, a month and a week or something like that. So July 3rd, it was right before July 4th, because I still have the email. They asked me to come work part-time before I graduated. And so I'm very fortunate it worked out. I was on a 1-year contract. 6 months into the job, they canceled the contract and brought me on full-time. I look back on that, and that grind and that hustle and those millions of it felt like millions of emails where I didn't get a response, and you just follow up, and nobody would give you a courtesy call. Nobody. And so I'm not one to hold grudges, but it's a big, I look back on it, and I'm just like, I never want to treat anybody that way. because I know how disappointing can be. And, so before I graduated, even I was employed, and it was a really great feeling. And I still remember it like it was today, or yesterday, where I'm walking to work with the biggest smile on my face, so excited to be designing into the real world. And it's that feeling still lights me up today. It still lights me up anytime I see a product that I've worked on in the real world. That lights me up like nothing else. And so that's kind of how I got my start, and that's a little bit of history about myself. Hopefully, this wasn't too tremendously boring. It's really difficult having a conversation just to a screen. So if you're still listening, thank you. Um, but yeah, that brings me up to present day. I mean, 6 years went by really quick at Vibram. My career has been in different points. You start in design, you go into project management, you go into design and development management, and you work with tremendous humans and people on a day-to-day basis. And if there's one thing that I've learned in business, it's relationships are everything. Number one, relationships are everything. And so that brings me to why we're doing this. An Untold Narrative is to share some of these relationships that I've built through the internet, primarily through the Instagram platform, but I'm trying not to limit it to that. I want to showcase and talk to people that I've met through the internet, and that's how our relationship started and still is today even. Maybe I haven't met you in person. And so the first episode, I already know who it's going to be. It's this kid, Shane. And so Shane reached out. He slid into those DMs, and he's like, I want to collaborate with you. And so, for people who quote unquote have made it, man, nobody's answering that DM. Nobody's answering that kid. And so I answer every single comment, every single DM, because I know how much it means to those people. And so Shane DM'd me, and I'm just like, okay, let's talk. And so we scheduled a time to FaceTime. We talked once so far. This is going to be the second time when episode number 1 launches. And we had a really good conversation, an inspiring conversation. Shane is an incredible human, and he's going to do tremendous things in his life. And he's still in college. He's in his senior year, I believe. And so please tune into episode 1. It's going to feature Shane. You're going to learn about his story and hopefully gain something out of it. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to make the prelude too long or lengthy or boring. But please let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts, and stick around. Let's try to create this and grow this into something. With that being said, I hope everybody is tremendously healthy and happy. We're living in a crazy world. If you ever need help on anything, please let me know. It's at david.filar on Instagram. If you need my email, it's in my YouTube. For business inquiries, please don't spam me. But with all that being said, thank you for getting this far. If you've listened this far, if you haven't, you're a scumbag. Peace.